That's right. We have a fellow who's one heck of an entertainer. For example, for 25 years, he played in the Legends show in Las Vegas playing Buddy Holly. We're going to learn a lot about that in a minute, so just stand by. Wait, what we got going here? Anyways, George. This man's name is George Stone. Come on in, George. Where are you? Are you ready?
I'm on your channel. All right. Hey, I'll tell you.
Wait a minute. Wait. Who? You're not.
I'll tell you, I don't get any respect. Oh, UFO Bob. Oh, last time I saw a mouth like that, it had a hook in it. Oh, I'll tell you. I don't get any respect. Now I know why tigers eat their young.
Well, what the heck of an intro as that is. All right, George, sit down. Let's talk.
All right.
So.
Last time I saw a mouth like that.
Wait a minute. Now we're watching ourselves down there, and I'm talking like this. Rodney, I can't do that. It's your show. Hey, there's Rolling with Joe. All right. So, I gotta turn down. I gotta turn this down.
Delay on that. It's great to be on your show, Bob. I've been heard
Well,
a
you
lot
gotta
about.
switch. Go over there.
Yeah,
Go
all
over
right,
there.
we'll do.
All right. We've got a lot.
Hey, everybody.
We got a lot of ground to cover here because George has been around the block in the entertainment industry. He started out as a rock and roll player back in the day. Well, he still is a rock and roll player.
That's how we met,
Yeah.
actually. When I was in high school, I was in a band in Orange County, California, and you had Cyberlight Productions, and
Yeah.
we were one of your bands. Third Creation
Yeah.
and the Medulla were the other bands, and we were Premonition.
Yeah.
And it
But
was great.
it's when he went to work for Walt Disney.
Yes.
Things changed. So tell us a little bit about that.
I'd always wanted to work at Disneyland growing up in Orange County, and it seemed like all of the cool teachers that I had, all of the classes that I enjoyed, were teachers that worked part-time at Disneyland. And I had a specific teacher, a social studies teacher named Mr. Cole, and he would tell the class, get your work done, and I'll tell you a story about when I worked at Disneyland in the 60s. And he worked on the Jungle Cruise, and he was just the coolest guy. So naturally, I wanted to be a Jungle Cruise skipper from a very early age, so I could tell jokes, and it just seemed like a cool job. And whenever I would go to the park with my parents, I remember even bringing a battery-operated cassette player, lugging it around all day just to get the Jungle Cruise spiel so I could remember it. But I sat too close to the engine, and when I got home, all you heard was the engine. Hi, folks, welcome aboard. So I had like 20 minutes of the engine.
So now we're going to segue to how he ended up getting the gig for playing Buddy Holly in Las Vegas for 25 years as part of the Legends show.
Yep. That came about. I had done a show in the Valley as Buddy Holly, and for Jim and Jane Wiggins, who made Elvis costumes. And when Jon Stewart was putting Legends together and getting the show together, he asked Jane Wiggins if she knew any other celebrity impersonators. And she went on a Rolodex, and there was my name. So the next thing you know, I had an audition, which I passed. And then I had 3 weeks in Las Vegas, a 3-week job in Las Vegas. And the critics said, nice little show, should last about a month. And I was thinking, hey, I get an extra week. That's 4 weeks. And I wound up spending 26 years with that show. And today, it is the longest running continual show in Las Vegas history. Legends in Concert. Check that out.
As a result, he has met some of the greatest legends, real legends, when I say Jerry Lewis, Dean Martin. Mm-hmm. You saw him doing Rodney Dangerfield, right?
Right.
Well, that's because he hung out with Rodney. You have a great story about Rodney.
Rodney came to our show. He was performing across the street at Caesar's Palace, and he actually knew the lady in our show who did Judy Garland. Her name was Monica Maris, and she was awesome. She was absolutely a great performer, and he came to see her, and it went from, hey, guess who's here, to, God, is he still here? Because he got a little tipsy. He was drinking vodka pretty heavily. And my mother and father happened to be there. My dad had the flu, so he never left the room. Big Rodney fan. And but my mother met him, and the first time she met him, at the first show, he was very pleasant. Oh, goody. Oh, it's nice to. Oh, it's nice to. Oh, your lovely mother. It's nice to meet. And then after he'd had a few vodkas, it was, oh, hey, your mother, and he was grabbing her rear end, and
So Rodney grabbed your mom's rear end.
Yes, and it was big news.
How many people can say that?
I'll tell you what, it was big news. So now every time he comes on TV, or a Rodney Dangerfield movie comes on, we say, hey, Mom, your boyfriend's on TV. And she, well, he had the most beautiful green eyes. They were bulging out of his head. But Rodney was a character, and he was very, very nice to me. Met him a couple of times in Las Vegas, as a matter of fact.
But what was the one about the hookers?
Well, I was trying to get him out of the hotel. He was drunk, and he was raising a lot of hell in the casino. So I had a new car at the time that parked in valet parking. So I got him through the casino. I was living at the hotel at the time, so I knew everyone. So I get to valet parking, and I tell the valet parker, man, you got to get my car right now. I got to get this guy out of here before he gets arrested. And he says, who? I said, Rodney Dangerfield. And we turn around, and Rodney is getting in a cab with two hookers, ladies of the evening, let's say. And I'm standing there like, I was about 23 or 24 years old, so I was just a kid. And the cab pulls up. I'm holding the valet ticket, and the cab pulls up, and Rodney leans out the window, and he says, hey, kid, you're all right, and zoomed off into the night. And the next time I saw him was several years later.
Now he's also performed with some of the rock and roll legends of our era. He's hung out with Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees.
True.
Right? He's met Mike Nesbitt.
Yeah.
Who are some of the other rock and roll legends you've hung out with?
Well, Jerry Lee Lewis came to the show one night, and that's a funny story. He was playing at the Sahara Hotel, and his opening act was Ricky Nelson. And so he came to the show, and got to meet him afterwards. He was really, really nice. He invited us to his show, as a matter of fact. And we had a fella in the show that did John Lennon, and he opened up his set playing guitar, but there was a piano. And as soon as Jerry Lee Lewis, the show had gone about 5 acts, and as soon as Jerry Lee Lewis saw a piano on stage and nobody playing it, he got up out of the audience, and he came on stage, and he started playing with the fella doing John Lennon. And I think the song was rock and roll music. He said, what key are you in, son? And I was standing in the wings, and I didn't have a video camera with me at that moment, or I would have been filming it. And he played with his elbows and his feet, and he just rocked out. And people were just mesmerized that this living legend, Jerry Lee Lewis, was on stage at the Legend Show. And then he did the song, took a bow, went back to his seat. And when Randy came off, our stage manager, a wonderful guy, but he didn't know very much about music. And he came off stage, and he kind of chewed Randy out. He said, damn it, Randy, you can't just, this is a professional Las Vegas show. You can't just have your buddies coming up on stage playing music with you. And he said, get out of my face. That was Jerry Lee Lewis, a living rock and roll legend. Get out of my face. And that was how it went. So Jerry Lee came up and stole the show. And Randy, who did John Lennon, kind of got chewed out for it. But
hey,
it was fun.
That reminds me. I saw that post there by Simon.
Is Simon watch? Hey, Simon.
Yes,
it was great speaking with you yesterday. Look forward to being on your show.
Anyway, Simon wants you to play some rock and roll, but you don't get to hear him play Buddy Holly unless we get a lot of likes and a lot of comments. I want to click up with a thumb, right?
All right, that's all right. I'll do whatever you want.
So now another thing about rock and roll. After he transitioned out of the Legend Show, he became another well-known figure in Americana. And who was that?
Julio Iglesias?
No.
No.
Ed Sullivan.
Oh, Ed Sullivan. Ed Sullivan. Yes. That's an interesting story too, because I was friends with the fellow who did Ed Sullivan for the Fab Four, and your viewers would know him because he was in the movie Pulp Fiction, in the scene where John Travolta takes Vincent, takes the Marsalis Wallace's wife out on a date to take her, and his instructions are, do whatever she wants to do. So they go to this nightclub where all of the people working the nightclub and the restaurant are celebrity impersonators. So Jerry Hoban played Ed Sullivan, who was like the maitre d', and Susan Griffiths was a waitress. I did legends with Susan, and there were all sorts of legends in the club, and their waiter was Buddy Holly, and it wasn't me. It was an actor, very famous, a great actor, Steve Buscemi played Buddy
That's
Holly,
right,
and it was
right.
sort of really a bit part. But anyway, Jerry played Ed Sullivan, and he emceed the twist contest.
Oh, that's
and
right.
the boss's wife, she wanted to win that trophy. So John Travolta and Uma Thurman, I think was in the was the actress. They got to do a dance number. So Jerry was a good friend of mine from Atlantic City, and he was in a show also called Really Big Shoe. But I knew that he had worked with the Fab Four, and I was a Fab Four fan. So sometime later, I get a call from Jerry, and he said he was only a couple of years older than me, but he always called me Kid. He said, "Kid, I was in Jackpot, Nevada, which is like having a gig on the moon. It was very the middle of nowhere."
And middle of nowhere, yeah.
Middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So I get a call from Jerry, and he says, "Hey, Kid, I need you to sub for me at the Las Vegas Hilton." And I said, "Doing what?" He said, "Ed Sullivan." I said, "Oh no, I couldn't do that." That was my first reaction. He said, "No,"
Wait. Why would you say no to a gig like that?
because I had only up till then, done Ed Sullivan as an impression. You know, take my glasses off and make the face, and I actually used to do an impression of Ed Sullivan drunk, and I would, now fine.
Wait a minute. Get in here. You might as well do the whole thing.
But I would do-
I'm big out of the shot.
No, that's all right. Ed Sullivan, where's now, right now, where is that little friggin' mouse? And I would just do it like, that's really it. So Jerry did a full costumed Ed Sullivan, the hair and the makeup and the suit and the whole thing. So anyway, he convinced me to do it. And it was only supposed to be for a couple of weeks while he did another show in Laughlin, Nevada. And I was just, kind of holding his place with the Fab Four. And then I liked the guys. I was a Fab Four fan, a big Beatles fan, so I knew who the Fab Four were. And it was really something to be working the same showroom that Elvis Presley performed in. And there were lots of people there who remembered Elvis and had great stories. So it was right off the bat, a very wonderful experience. The first time that I did Ed Sullivan was in this big show. And then I guess they liked what I did, and whenever Jerry couldn't make a gig, I was the sub for Ed Sullivan for the Fab Four. And I got to travel, and I got to know all the guys, and it really opened up a big career for me. And I was in my home in Florida a few years ago. It doesn't seem possible. And I got a phone call from one of the guys, and he told me that Jerry had a heart attack and passed away, sadly.
Oh, wow.
And he lived in Kingman, Arizona, kind of rural,
Yeah.
on a ranch.
Yeah.
So it was a shock because I just learned the death of my friend, and we spent a lot of time together. Jerry could tell stories, and he knew a lot about old Hollywood and old show business, and that's one of my passions too. And anyway, they said, "You're the guy now."
Yeah.
And I got like 25 gigs. Here I was working with the Fab Four maybe once, maybe twice a month, and in one phone call.
For those who may not know who the Fab Four are, which I highly doubt, but still, it's a possibility, they are, I think, the best Beatles tribute band. They have been around for ages. And now, how long have you been playing Ed for them?
It's funny. I always feel like the new kid, but I've been working with them. When Jerry called me, that was over 18 years ago. So I've been with the Fab Four full time for the last 5, and now I have a sub. Not enough.
That's understudy.
Well, I hesitate to say understudy. It's a fella out of New York who also is a great friend of mine named Jeff DeHart, and he's a talented impressionist. He's been all over He was very good friends with Bob Saget,
Oh,
who just
yeah,
recently
just passed
passed.
away, yeah.
But Jeff is a great talent in his own right. So, but I'm fortunate enough. And we've been doing a lot of reminiscing, a lot of
Yeah.
nostalgia,
Yeah.
because I grew up here in Southern California.
Yeah, in fact, we've spent the last, what, 3 or 4 days
Yeah.
together, including a major trip to Disneyland. Remember, he's a former cast member. That'll be a separate video that I'll be putting up in a couple of weeks.
But
Go on.
and a lot of my career started at Disneyland. But growing up here in Huntington Beach, Fountain Valley, and then working all over Orange County, it's been amazing to see all the changes
Yeah.
here. Because I haven't been here for a while. Certainly with the COVID lockdown, it's been a couple of years.
In fact, he didn't get to work for over a year, and neither did the
Right.
Fab Four because of COVID.
Right. And aside from a couple of online shows that we did, I took a job as a delivery driver. So I was out and about, but still wearing the mask and delivering. I was delivering, some of my deliveries were food for people that were shut in, elderly people who would get a week's worth of food in a box. And it was interesting. I hadn't worked a straight job in over 20 years, maybe longer.
And may I take a moment here to be kind of serious? Can we talk about that situation you went through here with the chemo?
Well,
And about
just
what the doctor said about your voice?
well, absolutely. Back in 17, I was diagnosed. I was having a little trouble. I had a lump on my neck, actually, and went to get it checked out. I just thought it was something minor, but it turned out to be I had a tumor at the base of my tongue, and stage 4. So just as everything was going great, this is way before the pandemic, I was battling this, and they took me in a room and told me, hey, there's a possibility. A lot of the things they said might happen actually did happen, but they said you may lose your speaking voice. And I said, I'm a singer, and I make a living with my speaking voice, doing Ed Sullivan for the Fab Four.
And Buddy Holly.
And all these other characters.
And Elwood from the Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
And
Hank Williams Sr.
Yeah.
And I've always been
Mick Jagger.
Mick Jagger, and I work cruise ships and still managed to do a few gigs out there. So this was very scary news, and went through 35 radiations and 4 chemos.
Wow.
And really, if you know anybody that's gone through chemotherapy or any treatment like that, it's pretty rough. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And it was a challenge, and I was fully supported by the Fab Four, who started a GoFundMe page, which raised a lot of money that covered nearly all of my medical bills.
That's it.
And
Yeah, the Fab Four guys are really outstanding.
Oh, they're wonderful.
Artie and Ron.
Gavin
Yeah,
and
Gavin.
Rolo and
Yeah.
all the people involved with their organization are just tremendous people. So that was a bit of a challenge, and then I pulled out of that, and thankfully got back to work. And then the pandemic happened, and then everybody I knew was out of work.
Yeah.
Nobody,
Yeah.
including professional sports. They closed Disneyland. The world shut down, as everybody knows.
Now, here's how things come full circle. The lady that signed us into the Disneyland park a few days ago, she happens to be a Fab Four fan.
Right.
What did she do for them when they were out of work?
She hired members of the Fab Four to perform in her backyard and do a live stream, and that was her way of kind of helping to keep the Fab Four
Afloat.
Really.
Try to
really.
say that 3 times fast.
And Bryna, she's just a wonderful, wonderful lady.
Yeah.
And
And she walked around with us. And she used her, how did you put it?
well, she's a cast member, and she just put in a word, and she actually introduced me as a Disney legend, which I am not, certainly.
Well, people sure
But
knew
I did,
who you were.
I did work there at a magical time, and I did enjoy so very much being a skipper on the Jungle
In fact,
Cruise.
we got to go on the Rise of the Resistance.
Oh, that was neat.
That was amazing.
Just the technology, just using all of the technology and all of those techniques
yeah.
you really felt like you were in the Star Wars movie. And I've been amazed over the years how Disney manages to do that, puts you right in the movies, immerses you into that experience. And it was really a great day.
Let's go back to your early days of rock and roll, okay?
Mm-hmm.
When you were in high school, okay? Now, there was a point, a turning point. You said, "I'm going to make entertainment my career, and I'm going to. Everything else gets shoved aside." What was that?
That happened at Disneyland when I was working the Disneyland employee Christmas party. And in those days, my family was in the park. My sister Sandy, who's now in New York as an actress, and she works in the theater, she was just a little kid. And that was the evening that we found out a buddy of mine was in the break area watching Monday Night Football. And Howard Cosell announced that John Lennon had been killed in New York.
Yeah.
He came down and gave me that news, and of course it was a shock. It was stunning. It changed my life, changed the direction of my career, because I went home that night and I sat in our bathroom and I just looked in the mirror and I sort of had a pep talk with myself. I knew the Beatles would never get back together. That was impossible now. And up until that moment, I had done music as a hobby, something to do on the weekends. I worked at Disneyland during the day, and on the weekends we'd play a club or a dance or a fraternity party or something like that. But it was really something for fun. It wasn't how I made my living. But I made it a promise to myself. I said, from this moment on, I'm a professional entertainer. And all of my focus, even though I still worked at Disneyland for a little bit after that, that was December 1980. I didn't leave Disneyland till summer of '81. So I still continued to earn a living, but my focus as an entertainer, as a musician, that was the moment I really took it seriously. And then I answered an audition for a traveling show called Liverpool. Buddy Holly, Elvis Presley, and the Beatles. And I played bass, portrayed Paul McCartney in the Beatle group. And then
And you did something to do that story about the bass.
Well, I didn't own a bass. The original ad was for John Lennon, and when I called, they said, "Oh, we've already got John Lennon and a great guy, Tommy Rocco." He looked, and he was a great guitar player, and he said, "Too bad you don't do Paul McCartney." I said, "I do a better McCartney," which was a fib. I just wanted to,
You always say yes.
Yes, you always, whatever they need, you can do it. So I went there, and of course I don't look a thing like Paul McCartney, but they had a job in Lake Tahoe that they needed to cast, and they had all gone into the kitchen to decide who was going to tell me that I drove all the way out there for nothing. And there was a guitar and a song list, and I picked up a guitar and just started playing and singing. And then they came out and they said, "Well, do you know this? Do you know that?" So then I got the job, and then they brought in a guy from Hollywood, a guy that did makeup at Universal Studios in California, and tried to make me look like a Beatle. They didn't even care. Just make him look like a Beatle. So they put a wig on me and everything, and when it was all done, they said, "Well, which Beatle does he look like?" And they said, "He looks like Mick Jagger, this guy." So I did that for a while, and while out on the road with that show, the fellow that did Buddy Holly got food poisoning. And they came to me and they said, "What size jacket do you wear?" I said, "A 40 regular," whatever it was. And they said, "You're Buddy Holly tonight."
Now talk about serendipity. See, he was ready because he loved music and he was always learning new songs.
Yep.
And if he hadn't put in the time on his own just to learn those because he wanted to be a great musician, he would have never been there sitting just for that audition, not knowing they were going to can his butt, playing rock and roll, mostly Beatles stuff, and next thing you know, he's Buddy Holly.
Well, and this was 2 years. Legends didn't start till '83. So I was struggling. So I wound up for a time opening the show as Buddy Holly, and then while Elvis was on, getting changed into the Beatles, which made the finale problematic, but they really didn't care. And then I knocked around a little bit and got a call from Johnny Stewart. I was living at my parents' house.
Which Johnny, by the way, worked at Disneyland.
He did. He went to high school with Steve Martin in the 60s, and Johnny dipped ice cream,
Yeah.
scooped up ice cream at Carnation Gardens, and Steve Martin worked at the Magic Shop.
Yep.
And they got together and said, you know, our talents are really being wasted here. We want to be performers. So they quit Disneyland and they went over to Knott's Berry Farm, where they got jobs at the Birdcage Theater and developed their comedy and acting chops. And Steve Martin went on to write for the Smothers Brothers and do his stand-up. And Johnny was a lounge performer in all of the hotels around Disneyland, the Quality Inn and the Jolly Roger and the Sheridan and all this. And so they were Orange County guys. And then when I got the call from Johnny to go to Las Vegas for 3 weeks, it just, we started it and never looked back.
He's leaving out a piece of fun information. He was late to work. No, it was a wedding.
I was going to a wedding reception, and it was at the Quality Inn, right across on Catella, right
near Disneyland.
Right next to Disneyland. And as I was going to the ballroom, there was a guy entertaining in the lounge, and he was passing out whistles and horns, and he was just this wild man, and he was getting the audience to sing and play all these instruments and tambourines and stuff like that. And I stood and watched him for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then didn't think too much about it. Went to the wedding reception, and then a couple of years later, when I got to know Johnny, having dinner with him or something, I said, well, how did you get started? He said, well, I was a lounge performer, and I worked all of those hotels all around Disneyland. And I said, what kind of act did you do? He said, oh, you know, I passed out whistles and horns. And I said, I saw you in 1980 or 81, 2 years before he got the idea to do Legends. So
Again, serendipity.
Growing up in Orange County, also we found out we were neighbors at one time.
Oh, yeah. Now, we found this out just yesterday.
Yesterday.
We lived in the same neighborhood and didn't know it.
Yep.
Okay?
Probably at different times.
Yeah, because George is a little bit younger than I am. And I lived on a street called, believe it or not, now I know you're going to think, oh, you're making this up. I lived on the corner of Galaxy and Universe when I was growing up.
And my parents had a home on Venus, which was literally...
Do you know how stupid that sounds?
I'm from Venus.
No,
but it was right around the corner from your parents' house.
It was walking distance, but we didn't know it until yesterday. Because, see, yesterday we did the old nostalgia tour. We went down to Huntington Beach. We went to where he used to live, where I used to live.
Went to my old elementary school.
Yeah.
Where I was voted class clown. I was in the 8th grade. Actually went there from the 6th, 7th, and 8th. It's now a middle school, but it was a brand new school when I went to it.
And see, again, there was only a brief period that George and I knew each other when I was managing, rock and roll bands. And we had about a 30-year lapse before we'd seen each other.
And that's the amazing thing about technology. I was thinking back to my history and whatever happened to this person? Whatever happened to that person? Well, as you know, you Google them or you look them up on Facebook.
Yep.
And I found Vern and or UFO Bob.
Who's this Vern guy?
And anyway,
you just doxed me.
got in touch with him, and I think at first you had a hard time remembering who I was.
Yeah.
Which was what happened with Mike the other night.
Yeah, we'll tell him about that later.
But once we established, then the memories started coming back, and I actually had some pictures that we took in your studio of a group, and it was funny, to work at Disneyland in those days, you had to have short hair, much like my hair is now. I had a bushy Johnny
We're talking
Bravo
about Afro. And we're talking about up here. This was the 60s, and he had bell-bottom pants. He had the
70s. It was the 70s.
The 70s, yeah. Glasses, and they were round, and puka shells.
Yeah, it was, everybody had long hair. And here's the irony of my life. I do all of these characters, and I've had a wonderful career in show business. Yep. But every night I think about this whenever I go to put on makeup, specifically Ed Sullivan makeup. So I do the lips and I do the eyebrows and shade in, got to do some shadowing and what have you. But I never, as a kid, as an insecure teenager, I didn't like my hair. I didn't like my face. I didn't like this mug at all. I didn't look like anybody that I admired or whatever. And I really had what we know now is low self-esteem. which is not uncommon with teenagers because
Sure.
it's an awkward
It's
age.
part of the growing up period.
And as the years have gone by, I realized, and this is the funny way that God sort of tricks you.
Yeah.
I realized I wouldn't have a career that I've had without this face. If everything didn't happen the way it did, this hair, this face, and I've managed to take, it's the old parable of you take what you have and use it to your advantage, use it to the fullest potential, and that's exactly what I did. That's really what I did.
And so when he did call me up, that was like about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yes.
And since then, we've been seeing each other regularly because he travels all over the country playing with the Fab Four.
Well, he said, what are you doing now? And I said, well, I play Ed Sullivan with a group called the Fab Four. And Vern and Mo and all the guys from these old groups were fans.
Yeah,
they knew exactly what I was doing. So that was a great.
Mo was another one of the. He was the lead guitarist of one of the other bands they used to manage. Mo and I and Frank, the drummer, are still good friends. They live locally.
So again, it's amazing the paths that we have taken. My path took me to Las Vegas, and now I live in Florida. But looking back on my life, all the common threads and how the Fab Four brought us together, brought us reason. Most of the time, in fact, I'm getting ready to walk out the door to do a corporate show with the Fab Four in Dana Point. So whenever I'm in California now, more likely, it's because I'm doing a show with the Fab Four. So when I'm in Southern California, I make it a point. We had dinner with some Jungle Cruise skippers last night, and we've met all kinds of people in just a brief time. It's only been a couple of days since Sunday. Yeah. And they're wonderful people. And I really, at this point in my life, what I'm really proudest of, besides my family but keeping in touch with these people that I went to high school with or worked with at Disney, and people that made a difference in my life along the way.
Yeah. Now, before we wrap up the show,
Okay.
Do you mind talking about that experience with a certain Japanese individual and and a certain entertainer who was very shy and came to the park?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
And maybe are you willing to talk about the push incident?
Well, the push incident is sort of
Let's leave it.
But
okay.
Working at Disneyland, I worked there during Disneyland is 67 years old.
Yes.
When I worked there, when I was a kid, they were getting ready for the 25th anniversary, and I worked that. It was a 24-hour party, and I worked part of that. And so many people. We had a night of stars, and anyone who had done a Disney film or a television show was there in the park, and I got to meet a lot of them. And you were always meeting famous people, but you didn't get a camera, you didn't ask for an autograph, and
Well, you're working. You're a cast member. You're in character.
More importantly, they're on vacation. They're trying to appreciate the park, experience it as a guest, and you don't ever want to make a guest feel uncomfortable. So I was running, and the most that I would do would say, just take a moment and say, I'm really a fan of your work, or thank you, I'm a really big fan, and that was it. But you would never ask for an autograph, or hey, can we get a selfie? There were no selfies, there were no cell phones or anything. But I was working a parade one time for Festival Japan, and my good friend Doug Boynton was the foreman out there, and he said, hey George, come here. I was in a Jungle Cruise outfit, the straw hat and the khakis. He says, come over here, I want you to meet somebody. I want you to meet these people. And it was a nice little elderly Japanese couple. And I shook hands, and they bowed deeply, and I said, oh, it's a pleasure. Welcome to Disneyland. Hope you have a nice time. And as we're walking away, I said, who are those people? He said, that was Emperor Hirohito and his wife. And that was something.
But what happened when you went home?
So I went home, and my father, who was in submarines in World War II.
In the Pacific,
in the Navy. He was working on a washing machine, and I walked in and I said, hey, Dad, guess who I met at the park today? He said, who? I said, Emperor Hirohito. And he started cursing and this will be that, this guy, because he was trained when he went to boot camp.
Yeah.
Japan was the enemy.
Yeah.
They were the sworn enemy of the United States, and that was a little shocking. And then not long after that, I had an opening shift on Jungle Cruise, and I was late. They were just setting up for the rope drop, and I was running.
Now, wait a minute. Explain what the rope drop is.
The rope drop is where they open the park. The park opens at 9. They'll open at 8:30. They'll let people in, and at the end of Main Street, there'll be a rope, and people line up, and at the stroke of 9 o'clock.
Hang on. The reason they do that is because the park from Main Street, you could get to all, Fantasyland, Tomorrowland, Frontierland.
The hub.
The hub. And so everyone would get to the rope so they could get to their favorite ride as quickly as they could and get on without having to stand in line.
The Matterhorn or Space Mountain
Right.
or Big Thunder or whatever the new
The
ride.
e-ticket rides.
Oh yes, whatever the new ride would be.
Okay.
So I knew I had to get across before the rope drop, and I was running from backstage across Main Street to Adventureland, and right as I came into under the Adventureland sign, I practically knocked over Michael Jackson. And this was 79, I think, or 80 perhaps. But it was before all the plastic surgery. I mean, it was right at about the time of he did Off the Wall. He was wearing yellow pants and a pullover sweater, and he just looked young and very good looking. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." When I realized who it was, I did the thing. I said, I really, really enjoy your work. You're really awesome. But I got to go. I got to open the Jungle Cruise." And he was very, very sweet.
And why was he there?
He was there because obviously he was Michael Jackson and incredibly popular. They had opened the Pirates of the Caribbean at 4 in the morning, and he and his entourage came in, and he rode the Pirates of the Caribbean several times for a few hours, actually. And it later appeared in one of his videos, the ideas that he got from writing the Pirates of the Caribbean. So it was an honor to meet him, and I never did. I mean, I worked with a lot of Michael Jackson impersonators and people that had known him. And in fact, when I was either on a cruise ship or something, the real Michael Jackson came to Las Vegas and watched the Legend show to see the fella doing him.
Oh.
That must have been a very strange experience. But by all accounts, he was a great person, very gentle and very shy person.
So I tell you what, we've got to get George to Dana Point, which is quite a distance from where I live. But we promised you that Buddy Holly would show up and maybe play some rock and roll. Maybe
I don't know if Buddy Holly
maybe
showed
it'll
up.
just be a tune, just maybe one tune or even a few bars.
Sure.
All right.
Be happy
But
to.
everyone's been kind enough. Look at it. We've got some nice thumbs up.
Great.
And we got a ton of chats here. I was going to read the chats as he was talking, but I was having too much fun with the conversation.
We'll have to do this again.
Yes, we
This
will.
was really a lot of fun.
And then I'll reread the chats when they're made available to me in later tomorrow, and I'll make sure to respond. In fact, before he starts playing, I might as well do my pitch. If you enjoyed this interview, please leave a thumbs up, maybe, or even a comment. And we have a Discord community. The link's below. And come and join us and talk about your experiences. And also George's Facebook page and the Fab Forbes.
The Fab Four website, you want to check it out?
Yeah.
It is spelled out,
In
thefab4.com.
And it's in
The links?
in the description box.
Yeah.
Okay? And I appreciate everyone showing up and for watching in the replay.
Yeah.
And
Wherever you're watching this, share
yeah,
it
and
with
you know
people.
we have people from England and Germany watching, all around the United States, Belgium.
All right.
Overseas, everywhere. Hey, there's Ray Centano and Alas is in England. There's Nasha Broad.
San Francisco.
And there's Megan and Simon and Katayama. He's one of my great supporters.
Yes, Simon, I did get your email.
And rolling with Joel and Peso. Is that Peso you? 67? Peso, Netherlands.
That's awesome.
You know, all around the world.
Peace and love, and we know everybody's struggling with the COVID and
Yeah.
with this new normal that we're dealing with, but we will get through it with
You
positivity.
mean Abby normal?
Abby normal, but we're going to get through it with positivity
Yeah.
and keep moving forward, not backward. Even though we're pretty nostalgic these days, I know I am. But I've had a
We're
wonderful
still
time.
young in heart.
Oh yes,
Absolutely.
but in reality I'm older than white thread. But but I feel great and appreciate everybody. If you're a Beatle fan, check out the Fab Four.
Absolutely. And hey, you can see George live depending on where the Fab Four are playing.
That's right. Go to thefab4.com and click on the
Hey,
tour.
no, I know you did. No, never mind.
What's that?
No. I was gonna have you introduce yourself.
And I'm right now here on our stage, right? Flying youngsters. Now coming up on next week's show, Ed Sullivan's a funny character. But I'm gonna. You want me to just grab the guitar? Or?
Yeah, no, I want you to stand up. We'll go out with you standing. So I'm gonna.
Sounds good.
So hang on here, guys. Now, here's the thing. They can't hear you as well. If we're going to talk, let's do it this way. Come back over. Here we go. So I'm going to switch the camera again. And then after you play. Now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the camera so they can see you a little bit better. So go ahead and take the stage, George. And crank it up so it'll yeah.
I want to blow out the neighbors.
Don't worry about the neighbors. They won't hear you. I promise you. We're isolated. Here we go.
Well, that'll be the day when you say goodbye. That'll be the day when you make me cry. Say you're gonna leave me where you know it's a lie. That'll be the day, hey, when I die. You gave me all your loving, your turtle doving, all your hugs, your kisses, and your money too. Sit and hold me, baby. Tell me boldly that someday, well, I'll be blue. Well, that'll be the day when you say goodbye. That'll be the day when you make me cry. Say you're gonna leave me where you know it's a lie. That'll be the day when I die. Yeah.
Bye, all.
See you later, everybody. Thank you.